Hi, my name is Pierre Côté. I'm the president and the founder of the Relative Happiness Index. Okay, I know what you must be thinking. Another crazy dreamer, another gimmick about happiness. Another who believes he succeeded to put happiness in a box and ready to manufacture it. I cannot blame you because if you type the word happiness in Google, you will have the choice between 382 billion results. At least that was the number of results I found the last time I searched. I didn't consult every article found by Google, but I can bet that the wide majority of these articles were superficial. Articles based on esoteric notions and psychopop rather than a rational or scientific approach. Many people take advantage of society's false perception of happiness. It's a very profitable industry. We are talking about trillions of dollars. And why is this industry so profitable? Because, of course, happiness can be anything. It is a fuzzy concept which people use and abuse without guilt. In a society where everyone is searching for their identity and their place, where the quest of senses takes any direction, the sellers of dreams make very good business. For me, happiness is everything except that. The index I've created in 2006 goes in a total opposite direction. In fact, happiness for me has become a concrete notion, a true variable, one that adds something more human and social to the traditional economical and financial data. One that gives a different perspective when comes the time to evaluate the status and the situation of a society, a community, or a group. Okay, there are probably a lot of skeptical people among you. So my objective with this presentation will be to change your minds, to interest you in this index, a powerful one that contains the potential to improve our societies and our individual and collective happiness. But what is the Relative Happiness Index? It's very simple. It's a self-assessment of our own state of mind. Despite all the modern technology and all the sophisticated instruments, happiness is still a mystery, and no one is able to evaluate the level of happiness of the other. What is going to make your happiness is not going to make mine, and what makes mine is not going to make yours. It is, as everyone knows, a relative and subjective notion. Even today, the only way to evaluate the level of happiness of someone is to ask him simply and to transfer this evaluation on a scale of 10 or 100. This is exactly what the Relative Happiness Index does. Even John Zelinsky, director of the Happiness Laboratory of Carleton University in Ottawa, after many years of research, makes the same conclusion. The Relative Happiness Index is based on the self-assessment of the individuals, but throughout the years, the RHI has also become a statistical index, a scientific and a mathematical one, an index we can integrate inside a model or a system. Allow me to return briefly to the past. In 2006, by pure chance, I watched a TV program that was a debate between two opposing groups. The question was the following: is the province of Quebec, the only French-speaking province in Canada, a poor society? Interesting subject. But after 30 minutes of futile discussion, debaters only used financial and economical data to justify and support their position. No one was, 30 minutes later, more informed and more able to know if Quebec was a poor society, myself included. They missed the most important thing, the most essential information. Instead of knowing if Quebec society is poor or not, can we try to know if the society is happy or not? This question seems fundamental to me. The wealth, in this context, becomes accessory to a more important notion. The idea to create an index that measures the happiness of a society or a community came in my mind at that precise moment. The idea to create a human index, but a credible one too. To make a true variable from happiness, a serious one that could be used in different ways than selling books dealing with personal growth. In my craziest dreams, I saw the enormous potential in this index, an international index that evaluates the level of happiness by country, by state, by city. A comparative index giving precious information to leaders that could be used to bringing solutions to the different populations and improving their level of happiness. If it's true that information is power, it is equally true that happiness is information. The best way to act on something is to know and to understand the subject very well. So I spent the last 5 years studying happiness. And I wanted that the RHI to be different to the other indexes. I wanted to make its source and its roots from the individuals. You know, the United Nations had declared that Denmark was the happiest country in the world. Maybe, but did we ask the Danish people if they are happy? Probably they are, but as happy as the indicators tell us? All the contests about happiness are inspired by the same principle. They use 20, 30, 40 indicators, often different from a study to another. They allow a relative importance to each of them. They weight them, they shake them, and up. The winner is. The contests, or these contests, are useful, no doubt about it. But what they really say is that according to the indicators used in the study, the people of such country or such city must be the happiest. Are they? This is another question. It is not because indicators say something that automatically these people are the happiest ones. The RHI proceeds totally in reverse. No indicator is used. Everything starts from the self-assessment of the individuals because they are the only one able to do so. It took almost a year to validate the theory behind the RHI and to create the website. 4 major principles supported the creation of this index. The first one was, if we ask people to answer personal questions, they would be honest enough to answer with integrity. All the surveys are based on this principle. The question about the self-assessment of their level of happiness would be part of every single questionnaire. The second principle was that if we ask a lot of complementary questions, it would be possible to cross data with self-assessment and analyze the fluctuation and the variation of the happiness level linked to the answers given. Pure statistic and very simple. The third principle depends on the quality and the credibility of the information published on the site. Journalists should be interested by this information and mention it in their own media. By consequence, they are going to push their clients to visit the RHI website to know more about the subject mentioned. The fourth principle was relied on the voluntary participation of the visitors to answer the online questionnaire where they will be automatically and systematically called upon to evaluate their actual level of happiness. These 4 principles work beyond all expectations. In 5 years, the RHI has become in the Quebec province a genuine, independent social observatory with an impressive data bank. 40 inquiries completed in the last 5 years. More than 800 questions asked. No one sponsored. Over 70,000 Quebecers who were interrogated. More than 500 articles written and published on the website. Imagine all this information but on a worldwide scale. An information that is rich, intelligent, contemporary, and useful. An information that covers all spheres of life: politics, culture, economy, environment, family, work, education, life habit, relation between man and woman, dead, and so on. There's no limit to the question we can ask and to the analysis we can make. This wealth of data makes it possible in the last year to identify and weight 24 happiness influence factors and classify them by order of importance. To identify and weight the 5 happiness factors at work and to develop a specific tool to diagnose and propose solutions to improve it. The RHI, which the data accumulated in the last 5 years, goes several steps forward than anyone has before. Its biggest strength is to make concrete something that wasn't before, to determine and calculate the different influence factors by establishing impacts, correlations, and relations from the causes to the effects. The most popular example, sure, money. Everyone knows that money helps happiness. But in which way? Up until what point? Now, thanks to the RHI, it can be done and calculated systematically on 14 inquiries realized since 5 years. The people who declare the lower income have a RHI from 9 to 12 points lower than the ones who declare the highest incomes. The curve, as you can see on the graph, is almost always directly proportional. It doesn't mean that the richest people are automatically happy and the less fortunate have misfortune hanging over their heads. But we know now the influence of money on the level of happiness. In fact, money, or the personal financial situation, occupies the 5th position on the 24 happiness influence factors. Also, it's important to know that this factor, like the 23 others, is subdivided in many different attitudes and behaviors that influence differently the level of happiness of people. And be careful. The curve of happiness declines after a certain point and becomes flat. There's no gap between the one who declares $200,000 and the other who declares $300,000. And at the moment you give too much importance to the money factor, or if money becomes your first motivation in life, your level of happiness decreases and becomes lower than the population average. Don't forget, money makes happier, but not better. I could spend hours talking about money, but let's go with some other information. Another more important factor, work. Everyone knows the importance of our work in our lives. Many define themselves more by their job than by the person they are. So consequently, it's much better to like one's job. If not, the impact on the level of happiness is catastrophic. This graph shows the gap of the RHI between the ones who are fully satisfied with their job and the others who are not. Imagine 30 points. We're not talking about a gap, but more about a ditch. With these numbers, no one would be surprised to know that work is the 3rd happiness influence factor on 24. And for those who have a doubt, they must know that 80% of people consider it impossible to be happy without a fully satisfying job. In comparison, only 60% believe that it's impossible to be happy without feeling love with another person. Consequently, love occupies the 6th position on the 24 factors, just after money. Happiness at work or a satisfying job is defined by 5 essential elements that influence employees in this order of importance. First, self-realization. Second, labor relations. Third, recognition. 4, accountability. And 5, remuneration. You are probably asking yourself, what is the number 1 happiness influence factor? Well, it's the feeling of achievement, the satisfaction about our lives and what we made it, and what we make of it. It is very simple. Achievement is like the puzzle theory. Take 2 pieces of a puzzle. One represents the life you dream of. The second represents your real life, the life you have. To have a feeling of achievement and happiness, the 2 pieces have to fit one in the other. More it's difficult to accomplish, more your feeling of achievement is weak. And if it's simply impossible to fit one piece of a puzzle in the other, you are in a big trouble, as you can see in the following graph, where you can see the difference of the RHI between the one who live the they dream of, and the other who are not really live the life they dream of. In fact, achievement, it's a very broad feeling that takes its source from the 23 other happiness influence factors. I could stand here for hours talking about each of these 24 factors and show you graphs, data, numbers, and numerous elements. But time is running out. And I just want to explain quickly some others. Family. Family is in the 4th position, but drops to the 7th position for the 18-24 age group. For them, friendship, which normally occupies the 9th position, switched to the 4th position. Families are smaller and the siblings are often replaced by friends. It would be interesting to discuss the notion of friends according to Facebook, but in real life, the number of real friends, authentic ones, is much lower, as you can imagine. 75% admit that their real friends network contain 3 friends and less. But the size of this network influences positively the level of happiness up until a certain point. Like money. Same phenomenon with like money. If you see on the graph, there's the RHI with the one who have no good friends in their network. And after that, the RHI with the one who have 4 friends and more. But as you can see, the curve becomes flat. And after 5 or 6 real friends, there's no matter. There's no importance. The curve of happiness still flat. It's the same thing with, the frequency of our sexual relations. Like you see in the graph, it's essential to have a minimum, but after a certain frequency, there's no difference, no impact, and no link to happiness. So the curve climbs until 2 or 3 times a week, but after that, doesn't make a difference. If you make it 4, 5, 6, or 7 times a week, the curve of happiness is still the same. And I can bet you, if you have to make it 10 times a week, your level of happiness decreases, because that means you have a sort of dependency. What is much more important is the satisfaction of our sexual relation. So in the graph, you see the difference of the RHI between the one who are satisfied with their sexual relation and the one who are not. So with this graph, we can say that it's better to have good sex less often than bad sex too often. Many other factors take their roots in the to-be notion instead of the to-have notion. Serenity, optimism, spirituality, altruism, solidarity all represent, at different degrees, several of the 24 happiness influence factors. The RHI also prove without any doubt that women evaluate their level of happiness higher than the men do. Imagine a perfect score. On 14 inquiries realized up until today, women have shown a higher RHI than the men 40 times. Not by much, 2 or 3 points, but it is systematic. Men, half serious, half joking, might respond that women are happier because they satisfy them. I know many women who choke in their coffee mug when they hear this argument. In fact, and according to the number of data, women consider themselves happier because they are more sensitive, more human, more empathic, closer to their feelings, and more focused on helping others. They are more open, communicate better, and look for well-being before power. For the RHI, happiness has become a science. Therefore, it's much easier and relevant to integrate this notion in a model or a system. In the last 5 years, Quebec province average RHI is 76.6. This score also corresponds to the Canadian average, but the score is much higher than the French Relative Happiness Index. In a viral world, and without any promotion on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean, the RHI has collected so much data from France citizens that we compare the result twice between Quebec and France. Both times, the Quebec RHI was 8 points higher than the French one. It's a lot. The explanation of this gap is simple and finds the source in the analysis of the answers given. On the 24 happiness factors, Quebecers show better results for 18 of them and for 12 on the first 14 factors. We could spend hours analyzing and interpreting the results, but this data and the information we have obtained show that the RHI is an exportable index with a strong potential on the international scale. It holds so many possibilities. Yeah, maybe the French citizens are more critics, more severe about themselves, and of course, the 24 factors and their position could be different from a country to another. But the principle behind the RHIs stay relevant, efficient, and the main fundamental values of a society will always find their place in this index and in the 24 factors, no matter the country. The multitude of data collected up until today from the Quebec province and from France, along with the comparative analysis, are such that the data presented by the RHI is unique in the world. For dozens of cities in the Quebec province, it's possible to know instantly their RHI average, to compare it with the national average, and to do so according to different demographic segments like the age, the gender, the status. This dynamic calculation system is automatically updated after each person answers the question on the website. This system allows us to know for any population given how happiness works, where the weaknesses are, and in which segment of the population. Imagine the power this information holds and, most importantly, the possibilities and the capacity to intervene and act to improve the happiness level of any of these groups. But that's not all. The RHI goes a few more steps ahead. The index also calculates the performance of this group of population according to the 24 happiness influence factor, and always in comparison with the national results. 2 women mayors, when they knew this information was available, told me that it was unthinkable not to use it because this information allowed them to improve the fate of the citizens. Here we have the result on the graph for Montreal, and we can see the general RHI for them and the same result in comparison with the national average. And we can have, always for Montreal, the same result according to every factor's happiness influence factor. And as you can see, it's red. Red for accomplishment, red for the second, for the third, red for the 4th, 5th, and 6th factors, even for the 7th factor. The first positive factor is the number 8, recognition, and after that, friendship. So, with these results from Montreal, we understand a little bit better why Montreal occupies the last position in the RHI annual happiest city ranking. We have also a better understanding of the gloom of Montreal in the recent years. So, and if you want to compare 2 cities, it's possible. Here we have the result between Montreal and Quebec City and the number of participants to the questionnaire. So we can see the difference of the RHI between Montreal and Quebec City. You can see that only 10 factors are positive for Montreal instead of 16 for Quebec City. In the negative factor, achievement, work, money, and love are negative for Montreal, but positive for Quebec City. And the factor number 17, environment, is positive for Montreal, but negative for Quebec City. So the comparative analysis for these 2 cities could be extended. But anyone who knows the actual situation and economic context of the Quebec province will agree with these results and recognize how they are representative and loyal to reality. They show and illustrate how and how much a specific situation or context can influence the happiness level of any given population. It helps and contributes to have a better lecture and a better comprehension of any social group. Imagine one more time if this information was available everywhere, for countries, regions, states, cities, neighborhoods. It would be possible to analyze for each of them happiness and its different expression and symptoms, and mainly think, act, and take the best decision to improve it. The same data is also available for businesses and enterprises. Happy workers are more efficient, more productive, and the company, as a result, more profitable. Everyone knows this. We can calculate the benefits of this by millions of dollars. It is possible now to calculate happiness at work and to give crucial information to business people that allows them the possibility to improve it. Don't forget, work is the third happiness influence factor. And as you can see on the graph, that's the performance of the 5 happiness factors at work for a population given. And you can see exactly the general result and the result for every segment analyzed. So we know exactly where the weaknesses are and where the strengths are. In the era where the retention of the best employees and the recruitment of new talents are becoming a major issue for businesses, the RHI, with its several possibilities, represent a contemporary solution to the modern world. Unfortunately, the RHI hasn't been developed by an army of university scientists, but by a person who comes from a marketing and communication background. There's some advantage to that. This gives a contemporary index, a simple and a relevant one. Sure, you could contest this, pretend that this index isn't scientific and just speculative. But statistics, when it's professionally done, is a science. In fact, for the RHI, happiness has become a science, a popular one, sure, but an accessible one that allows us to know the real things, to obtain useful and concrete information that we can benefit and use very quickly. The RHI, with the simplicity of how it works, has the potential to explode and rapidly radiate on almost all of the territorial markets. The RHI is a tool designed and developed to fit in the actual international trend that tries to make our planet a bigger and a better place for humans. I believe that the RHI represents also a very interesting opportunity for Google, a natural association that permits Google to strongly affirm its desire to work towards a better world. The RHI also offers the possibility to build a colossal and unique information database that is going to interest billions of people all around the world. Yes, I'm a dreamer, and I firmly believe that our societies will be better from the moment that humans search for the real well-being, and happiness will then dominate all other aspects. Also, I think happiness and Google can become a very good pair. Thank you very much for your time. I hope also that I change a bit your minds and your perception about happiness. Thank you.